Thanks everybody for coming today and attending our Pro Connect with Helen and Sara. Hi girls.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Nice to see you, and thanks for your time today, for coming in and sharing your knowledge and your experience of what you went through at Bowerbird. And we're all keen as anything to learn more, and especially for students that are interested in doing the program. I'm sure it's beneficial for them too. So I thought I'd just start with a bit of a refresh on how the program works. So basically, once you've either finished your course or you're in block 4, you're eligible to apply for the program. And you send through your CV and we'll have a chat to you and just work out if you're a good fit for the program and your availability. And then from there, we put you on to the team at Bowerbird, and twice a week for 6 weeks, you're off and running and learning everything about property styling and styling to stay. So yeah, we encourage you to apply. Currently we have 2 people in the program at the moment. We've got Lisa Tonkin and Leah Clark. They're both in there at the moment, so be interested to see how they're getting along too. So I'm just going to go through the slides. So just as I was saying before, just to be part of it, you can even email me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. And we do have on our Instagram page a link as well. So you can go through the link and fill out the forms. And then you've got your expression of interest there for the program too. Okay, so who's eligible? As I said, anybody that's finished the course, and it has to be the diploma, not the Cert 4, sorry guys. And you've received competency in all your subjects, you align with the culture of Bowerbird. Submit your CV and your portfolio. If you've got a website or Instagram, then pop those links through. There is a little statement that we'd like you to fill out, maximum 250 words, just to say why you want to work at Bowerbird. And then, yeah, we get in touch with you and we kind of take it from there. It's pretty straightforward. So at Bowerbird, what will you learn? Well, the girls will tell you what you will learn specifically, but just outline quickly: briefing and planning, curation and selection, styling and spatial planning, and photography and marketing. And what are Bowerbirds looking for? On their website, there's a landing page and you can have a look at all the criteria there just to see what they're actually looking for in candidates. So let's get started. So we've got Helen and Sara here, and I want to just ask you some questions. We're going to do kind of like a bit of an interview process. So I'll ask you girls questions and you can answer them for me. So the first question is, what was the first thing that you learnt when you were at Bowerbird?
Do you want to jump in, Sara?
Yeah, sure. No worries. I just, well, as you can see up here, I think one of the first things I think Helen and I both discussed, we knew that going into it, it was going to be hard work, that it wasn't just all the pretty things, pictures and things that you see on Instagram and socials. So that was definitely one of the first things going in, and already knowing that it was going to be hard work, but realizing just how much work it took behind the scenes to get everything together for those images that, you know, we see, the general public sees through the socials, through, you know, listings and things like that. So lots of hard work behind the scenes, lots of different levels, teams working together. I'll let you talk about that a bit more than Helen.
Yeah, thanks, Sara. So look, we the way it worked with Sara and I, we were both there about the same period on differing days of the week. So we didn't actually cross paths in the office, but I think Sara followed the same kind of timetable that I did, which was the first 2 weeks, I reckon, Sara, we were placed with a different person within the admin team. Yes. So we spent time with the logistic people, with the marketing people, with the back end planning process way before we got our hands on the pretty stuff. So yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was just how big a machine it is to keep it going. It's, you know, the stylists, I suppose, are the person that you think of when you think about a business like this, but really there are so many people with different skill sets that support that whole system. That was probably the biggest impact for me. I expected it, but you realise that a lot of people go into producing it, the warehouse crew, as I said, the staff who are on the phones, the sales reps, it's a big group. Yeah, so that was probably the biggest for me.
How many staff have they got there? Have they got like a team of permanents and then casuals?
Yeah, most of the stylists are casuals, aren't they, Sara? I found probably half.
Yeah.
Some full-timers, but plenty of casuals. Certainly, I think the staff that I worked with in the office were mostly full-time.
Yeah.
Is that right, Sara? 1 or 2 might have been 3-4 days a week.
Yes, I think majority full-time, and then they had in the office probably maybe 12.
Yeah,
12. And then about 4 the relationship managers, who are the girls out on the road doing this, like going and meeting potential clients and then going back to the project team. And so it's a pretty big team.
Yeah.
And then there's all the it's all the men really that work in the
like the warehouse, the
warehouse, and then there's the delivery, like the truck drivers, and so that again, that's more.
I think I actually asked them at one point, and I think they said they've got about 15 that come and go from the office, and I think they had roughly 40 in the business in total, in terms of the others that are coming and going. Yeah.
Wow. And how many trucks do they have?
Oh, was it like 4 big trucks and then a couple of vans?
Yes. They had 4 or 5 of their own, and then they contracted out. If they had, when they were getting busier, they had like a freelance removalist company that they would also tap into and use. And I remember asking them, I'm sure you did this, Sara, too, how many removals or installs are you doing every day? And they said, I think it's 8 a day, between 6 and 8 a day. They've got houses going out. And that's busy. I think that they said to me this time last year it was like 3, and they're doubling at the moment every year, which has meant it's such a growing business for them. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Must be amazing. And in terms of the warehouse, is the warehouse, for instance, my warehouse is around 250 square meters, and I can do 6. I can roll out 6 jobs. I've got about inventory for 12 houses. Yeah. So how big do you reckon their warehouse is? Is it like over 1,000 square meters, more? 2,000?
I never actually asked what the size was. They were looking for a bigger space.
Yep.
And they actually had also, when Helen and I were there, I'm not sure how long before, but it was fairly new. They'd rented out space in the building next door, which is where then the stylists were sort of based with a lot of the accessories and things. And then that's also where they were receiving and storing style to keep pieces, so furniture, accessories and things like that, because that's also really blossoming at the moment too, the style to keep side of the business. So it's
interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
And I think I asked them at one point, and don't quote me on this because maybe I've muddled in the time it's been, but I think they said to me they had about 80 houses out at once, so they have inventory for a huge number of, as I said, if they're doing 6 or 8 a day that are coming through in and out, that multiply that by how many that the usual time frame is between 4 and 6 weeks. They've got gear in someone's house, so multiply that by 8 a day. They've got like enough inventory probably for 100. I think they said to me around 100 houses at once. Different in scale, of course. That can be anything from a 1-bedroom studio up to a 5-6 bedroom house. So massive range in terms of how much they need for each project.
It's incredible, isn't it, the scale of it? So the next question was, so when you were actually on the styling side of it, you did some projects, didn't you? You did some staging jobs, So what was that actual process like for you?
We throw together a few notes just to try and, because to prompt us. Obviously, if you're talking about just the day of install, before you even get there, there is so much work that goes in. The lead time usually was 3 to 4 weeks, I think, between the time that one of the sales reps might go, or the design and relationship manager might meet with the client and agree the contract. So there was that quotation and sales process. Then it goes into logistics, where they talked about dates, timelines, access to the house, get all that sort of stuff sorted out. Communication then between everyone in terms of how big it is, how many pieces they need, whether it's an integration, meaning that the vendor, if it's a style to sell, the integration means that they still have half their own gear or some of their own gear in there. They might be still living on site, which is very different to a completely blank slate. Then it goes through the steps of the stylists start to pick and pack the bits and pieces that they will select for it according to the scheme, and Bowerbird work with 3 or 4 different schemes they have. Sort of, it's all a very similar kind of aesthetic, but they dial it up and down a little bit according to what might suit the location and the client. And then it goes into the day, and Sara, do you want to run through what happens on the day?
Yeah, so the with what Helen was just saying with the scheme, so they sort of do like lights, darks or hues. So even when the stylist is picking the pieces, they will know that, and they have access to Dropbox, which is so the DRM, like the designer relationship manager, who's essentially that sales team person who's been out there, takes a lot of photos and measurements and things, so that all of those photos are accessible to anyone who needs them, and the stylist will use those to help pick the items for the job. And then they also use them on the day, because then when they're picking the items for the job, it's all specific to each room. So even to the accessories, they'll be picked, photographed. So whoever's packed that job, they've photographed those pieces together, and then the stylist who then is out there doing it on the day knows, right, well, this is what it's meant to look like. It goes into this room. So it's all as we said before, there's just so many layers to it. It's all very well organized. And then on the day you meet the truck, and well, actually before that you pick up the keys. Sometimes things may go wrong there. We'll talk about that later. But once you get there, hopefully you've picked up the keys, the stylist has picked up the keys, you meet the truck, and it all just goes from there. Then bringing everything in, cleaning everything, making sure that everything's in its place, setting all up all the accessories, making the beds, ironing the linen on the beds, everything just out in the right rooms. And
that can be anything from a couple of hours for a small job to the full day. So depending hanging
on
the artwork, they go through everything. So you pick you've got to mark the levels, and then the boys put the artworks up, clean down the artworks, and then generally the stylist will take some photos. They have to take photos anyway and put them in a Dropbox so they can see where everything is and it's all been set up properly. And then sometimes they'll be sent out with the camera, which is then the photos that are used for marketing. And generally there's a walkthrough with someone. Most jobs I was at, there would be someone. There were some that there weren't, where we would just do it all and leave and someone came through later, but often an agent or one of the sales reps or someone would turn up and sort of go through it. Sometimes the client was even there and they would walk through and give feedback as the job was happening. So and there's always a little bit of surplus. Generally I think the stylists tend to they cover their bases by overpacking a little bit. So there might be more accessories that are needed, 1 or 2 chairs that they sort of think, well, look, we'll throw that in. If it's not needed, it can always come back. So there is that 1 or 2 bits of surplus. Sometimes there are reworks that then happen if the agent's not happy or if the clients or the vendor's not happy. They might turn around and go, don't like that sofa, too many chairs here. So the process can often then take a couple of days if they have to organise something to come in and replace an item that they had selected. And then obviously at the very end, once although it's not part of the install, once the campaign's finished and the property's sold, if that's what's going on, there's a whole removal day. I don't know whether you did one of those, Sara. I did right at the end. It's so fast compared to when you're setting up. It takes the whole day. The removals, like you can do it in an hour, just about. Everything's ripped out and back in the truck and away you go. So,
the pack up's always the easiest bit, and you're relaxed at the pack up because
totally.
Done, it's sold and the client's happy and you can just go in and pick it all up. But when you were picking for the job, did you have processes that you had to follow and was inventory coded and you just had to write the numbers down or quantities and things like that?
So they have the Dropbox with the photos, and then printouts with what specifically is needed for each space in the house. And then when you go around in the warehouse and pick it, it's all like you've got your stickers so when you get your printout, you've got all your stickers with the address and everything on at the job, and then you stick those on the items, and then you actually write down the location of the items. Because it was so busy when Helen and I were there was lots of negotiating between the stylists saying, well, hang on, we need something smaller, or we need something bigger, we need something this. So trying to work out what was going to go to what job. And then even towards the end, because I was there a little bit longer than Helen in the end, because I missed a few weeks with COVID and everything. So even by those sort of last couple of weeks, because they were so busy, they were mainly just getting the same few girls to do the picking, and then a different few girls to do the installs, because just to have some consistency in knowing exactly what sort of jobs are coming up, because some jobs are worth a lot more as well, and people are paying a lot more. And, you know, it's not every house and apartment, everything's important, but they needed, you know, sort of different pieces of furniture that maybe were already out. So they're trying to look at it in advance, even just to go, right, well, yeah, we'd love to send that piece out for the job that's going out in 2 days, but we really need it for the job that's going out in 5 days. So just to get a bit more consistency there.
And they do, I think, as part of the early planning process, you know, because it's a whole business. If they come across a property that's been booked in, that's a really spectacular property for some reason, it's size or scale or location or views, they'll earmark that as one of the highlight ones. So they really make sure they pump the best look into that. Then they'll make sure then that they're using those property photos for their socials, for their marketing campaigns, because they know that's going to be something that's a real, it's either a point of difference with that property, or it's just so great, you know, that they want to make sure it's a showcase one. So I think when they flag those, they make sure they probably pick the cream of the items, because again, when they've got an inventory that's, I didn't actually ask them, Sarah, how old some of those pieces are, but you know, when they're in and out of different properties every couple of weeks, there's natural wear and tear, so some things just don't look as good, you know, when it's 6 months old. So they really do try and cherry pick the good stuff to go into the showcase properties. Another consideration along the process.
Is there someone in the team that has to do sourcing and purchase inventory? Have they got someone?
There's a couple of people that do that in the projects and the styling team. It's just a full-time shopper, really, isn't it? They're looking, most of it's online. They've got a preferred list of suppliers that they go to, and they divide the business into both style to keep and style to sell. That's two of their main business arms. They've got a couple of people that are shopping for the style to keep, which is a little bit different. It's still within their aesthetic, but obviously it's a lot more client led, and then the style to sell, they've got people that are just constantly shopping for new stuff when something's damaged or dirty or just needs replacing, and right down to, you know, cushion inserts like towels, sheets. It's not light bulbs,
light bulbs. Light bulbs is like on the daily shopping list, I think.
Oh, I hear you. I know what it's like. So, I can definitely relate to you girls and what you've been doing. So in terms of after you finished your install, how did you feel? Absolutely exhausted? Apart from that, did you feel this sense of like reward? And it's quite rewarding, isn't it?
It is. Walking into some places and then seeing what it looks like at the end, it was really amazing being part of that process. So very rewarding.
It is exhausting on a big, you know, I did jobs that ranged from a little 2-bedroom tiny apartment up to a 6-bedroom home, and it was with full indoor outdoor, and it's exhausting. Like, even though we weren't the ones, we should clarify too, they have got these great guys that are removalists. They do all the heavy lifting of furniture, but even just on your feet, you know, I wear a Fitbit and I was doing thousands every day. It was great.
It's good exercise.
So it's tiring and it's grubby. You know, you wear black for a reason, because you get very, very dirty very quickly lugging stuff around.
It's handy having that uniform, isn't it, that you can just tuck your top on and your jeans. Definitely. Oh, fantastic. So here's some of your work. Tell us about these ones.
Okay, so these were my pictures that I threw in here the other day. So I couldn't resist but putting a couple of warehouse shots up. That's in that top left corner. just to show you what it looks like. And you can't really see, sorry, it's probably a bit small, but yeah, their warehousing structure is great and they've got good systems in place. They have bays. So that shot on the top left corner is a packed bay ready to go out. So that's got all the furnishings in for one job. And then the rest of it kind of just was a snapshot of a couple of the different places we did. The one in the middle where you can see a red light shade and some artwork on the background, that was an integration. So the client had a lot of their own pieces. That was their lamp, it was their artwork. So, and that client was really particular they were very vocal in what they did or didn't like that we were bringing in. They were there on site the whole day, which it made a real difference. Then in contrast, when you had a blank slate to go into, which I think was pretty much all those other pictures, without a client being there, you can just come in and you can be creative completely on your own. Whereas, obviously when it's a client's home, although I don't know, you would know this too, Gabby, although they're not going to be living there, so what they like shouldn't really matter in this job process. It's a respectful thing, and they are still the client. So if they want their red artwork up on the wall, their red artwork stays on the wall. But the rest of them, as I said, that's just a snapshot. The ones on the bottom left there, where there's a beautiful little bed and timber bedside and the dining table, that was a little small 2-bedroom apartment I did, really compact. The others were larger homes, but as you can see, really beautiful pieces that all work together. Even the integration, the bowerbird style worked really nicely with that client's pieces that they left in their home. So.
Their aesthetic is very much their own, isn't it? It's a real distinctive bowerbird style. You can just tell, can't you? Straight off.
You can. And even the hues, I think most of the ones, I didn't do any really light projects. I don't know whether you did, Sara, where it was very light. These are mostly light with a little touch of moody or hue. You can see the sort of the single dark armchair or a couple of dark pieces of artwork or linens, but otherwise it's a really nice, clean aesthetic, which is great because it means all their pieces can work with one another too. It's you don't really have any items that stick right out, that look like they don't belong together, no matter which scheme they've gone with. Yeah,
it's really important, isn't it? That in the integrated styling, it is a lot more challenging, so much more challenging because of the fact that you are working with clients, furniture and
existing pieces. Yeah.
So to get that look is a real skill. So.
And they're great at layering. That was one of the things I remember, Gabby, when I first put my application in. I knew that was probably a weak point for me. I can visualize big stuff, but then to get it right down to the linens and the decor and the little accessory items, that's where there's so much of that makes the visual impact when you walk into a space, right down to what's sitting on the coffee table, the throw rug and the cushions and the combination of things that they put together. It's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, these are beautiful images. Everything looks so fresh and beautiful and clean. And it tells a story. A home, we always say a home doesn't have a soul if it's not furnished. You can't tell a story. So it certainly does here with what you're showing us. It's beautiful.
Thanks. Next slide's yours, isn't it, Sara?
So, Sara, what's happening here?
This was the same. The video and the photos is just from the same job. So I thought because I had this video from this job that I may as well just put in the images then, so it's a little bit easier to see what you're seeing. But if that works, Gabby, that shows just scans around. This is just the kitchen and the living area. Oh, we're getting there.
The floor. How beautiful is that? Well, that's cool.
Yeah, so then we did some bedrooms and study and everything as well for this house, but I just thought this was completely empty, brand new build. We came in and did, I think, one of the bedrooms we didn't do, but so the outdoor areas, the inside, everything. So, and this was a light with some hues through it too, and it was beautiful. It looked really great, this house, and it was a fun day actually. I picked up the keys for this one, and we got there, all arrived at the same time and everything. This job actually everything went really well, so everything just flowed. The agent came and he loved most of it. There was one room that I think did require a rework in the end because had come through as a bedroom, but they wanted to have it as a second living space. But, you know, that was pretty normal to get some sort of feedback like that anyway. And as we said earlier, you know, reworks were just a part of the job. So, yeah, but that was just a little snapshot of the living space for that job.
Yeah, fantastic. So was that a unit or a
it was a duplex, but it was sort of set up that you didn't really notice. To be completely honest, when I got there, I didn't even realize it was a duplex because of the way it was sort of like curved around. And it was it was a decent size.
Yeah, it looks big. The kitchen looks nice.
Yes, yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, and we'd like styled the bathroom, laundry, everything as well.
Fantastic.
It is interesting, even just when you mentioned that kitchen, it makes me think of it. One of the last jobs I did, which was in one of the pictures before, it was probably a house that was a large house, 4 or 5 bedrooms, but it would have been a late 80s, maybe early 90s, with this kind of lavender kitchen benchtop. And you walk into a space, I guess, when it's an older home like that, and you think, okay, clearly you've got to work with the surfaces. And that completely informs then the scheme, because it was an open kitchen, living, dining area. So all of a sudden, the stylists were great, you know, that just to make sure that kitchen didn't look completely out of place, they introduced a beautiful feature chair in like a soft lilac colour, which was just enough to draw them together. And although you might think, okay, it doesn't quite fit with the scheme, you've also make sure it's got to fit with the home as well.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, it's you can't cookie cutter it. It just doesn't work. So it's definitely got to adapt to suit the architecture and the style for sure. So okay, I really want to know about this now. Do you have any good stories to share? Because I tell you what, we always have them with my business. There's always something hasn't gone on the truck, or someone doesn't turn up, or the key's not in the key safe where it's meant to be. What happened, guys?
Light bulbs and bedding that was missing. I think Helen and I both had to go to the shops to buy a few bits and pieces. I just was buying light bulbs one day. Keys that we picked up the keys, but they didn't actually unlock the door. So then they had to get a locksmith to come and meet us at the place to let us in. Yeah, there were a few of the bits and pieces that happened to me.
Yeah, and I had similar, you know, with the light bulbs like daily, that, you know, none of them are working. We had a day when we turned up to one job in Erskineville and the painters had arrived 10 minutes before us, even though clearly someone had miscommunicated. So the painters just said, look, that's fine. We're just doing the hallway. We won't bother you. I'm like, no, you can't take furniture through wet halls. So that at the last minute, that whole job, the whole day was turned upside down. You know, I was sent somewhere else. The truck just had to keep all the gear in and go back and reschedule the day. I had another day in the smaller apartment I worked with where I always had an altercation with one of the removalists. The removalists, as you know, Sarah, hang the artwork sort of once the place is dressed, and we'd marked it all up, and he just hung it ridiculously high where you walked in and it's like the bottom of the frame was at your eye level. And we just said, what, like, you can clearly see them. And he tried to argue, no, this was where you said. I'm like, you can see here that it's not. Anyway, it was one of those things where this was an older style home where there was a concrete rendered wall. So he drilled holes in. You couldn't then just patch it and go. So you sort of have to think on your feet and think, okay, work out what to do. And look, it's one of those things where I think if you've got a bit of experience, even through studying or through your own home renos, I found that the stylist I was with that day, totally gorgeous, but she was quite young, and I don't think, other than studying, she didn't have the real life experience. So I ended up saying to her, look, you know, there's a Bunnings down the road. I'll go and get some hanging wire. We can drop the picture, still concealing the hole, you know, just things like that. You've got to sort of learn to think on your feet and adapt. And I think it's interesting where no one wants to take responsibility sometimes for things. You know, the guy hanging the artwork didn't want to take it, but at the end of the day, you've got to walk out of that property and have it ready to go. And the client, you know, you can't just say, we'll come back next week and fix that wall. You've got to find a workaround. So I think I really enjoyed that part of the process, to be able to think and solve problems, you know, in the moment. But yeah, there are a couple of issues like that where things went wrong, shall we say.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it. And yeah, thinking on your feet, it's just one of those skills you need. So yeah, we have it all the time. We have, like I was saying the other day, that a mattress will turn up. You've got a queen base and a double mattress. Okay, so now what are you going to do? And, you know, sometimes you just can't go back to the warehouse. The job might be, like for us in Melbourne, I'm on the peninsula. If it's in Sorrento and the warehouse is 45 minutes, we just have to make it work. So we have to work around that by putting, you know, filling it with the pillow or the cushion or something. And it works, but you just have to be really
resourceful. Yeah.
You do. Yeah, for sure. So takeaways, guys. What was the biggest sort of takeaways you got out of the program and what you learnt? And
I think what we were just saying about being resourceful, flexible, thinking on your feet, not being afraid of hard work and just getting in there and getting the job done.
Because it is, it's really hard work, and it's when you're styling and when you're on site, even when you're in the warehouse, actually it's really physical. You know, you're choosing stuff, but you're up and down stairs all day, you're on your feet all day. So I think anyone going into both the internship idea like this, just be open-minded and be prepared to jump in and do whatever's needed. I found that was the other big thing. You know, you need to be willing to not just stick with what you might think is your job that day. You know, if they need help elsewhere, drop it and go and help elsewhere. You know, you've got to be flexible in that way too.
Sounds like it was never dull.
No,
it was great. Very busy, and really busy company that's growing so quickly. But I think, they are just non-stop every day.
Yeah. It's amazing. Well, thanks so much for sharing. I'm going to just stop sharing my screen and we'll go back to us. What I wanted to just do was get anybody that's interested in asking the girls a question to pop it in the chat box. So if there's anyone that would like to ask a question, could you just pop it in the chat box for us and we'll be able to answer that for you. I'm sure there'll be someone that's curious to know something. Yeah.
Maybe we've answered all the questions.
You might have actually.
Get lost.
Yeah, maybe there's no questions. Yeah. So in terms of preparing for the program, was there anything that you did prior to actually starting? Where they reached out to you and you were, Annika, hang on. Do you see this as a future career? That's a great question, Annika. Thank you.
Look, I'll jump in. It was really interesting for me. I wanted to get the experience of a whole company and to see not just a niche role within it, but that's why it really appealed to me. What I came out of it thinking is that I actually realized I enjoyed it, but I don't want to be a stylist. I like planning more than I like executing, I think. So that was a good learning for me. And to be completely honest too, it's an industry where certainly most of the stylists at BOWERBIRD, they're really young. You know, these are girls in their early mid-20s. And I felt like an old lady, which was hilarious. But it was really, so not to say that that's not why I would want to do it, but I just think that I found my enjoyment is more in the planning side of things. And even when I left the company, I don't know if you have the same experience, Sara, but because they're growing so quickly, they actually said, would you consider working with us, which was fantastic. And I said yes in a certain role. Like I don't need to be out on the road like the girls are doing. And I think fortunately for me that because they're growing so quickly, they're looking for people that might be able to work in different parts of the structure of the team, the organisational team. So I think it's an industry I would absolutely consider working in, but only certain roles in it. How did you feel, Sara?
Yeah, the same. I always, even from when I first chose to do the course, I chose the Diploma of Interior Design because I knew that I liked the initial planning, designing stages, and that's why I didn't do, a styling or decoration course. I liked covering everything in the course, and that's why I also was really excited to have this opportunity and see how it all works behind the scenes and get involved in the business and all aspects of it. I loved that they sort of covered the office and the workshop, and out there styling. But for me, again, I knew all along I really like I love all the spatial planning and floor plans and materiality and everything, which I would love to work in that sort of area. So of course, you know, if I'm working on jobs and styling's a part of it, great. But I think for me, I know what I'm really passionate about and what I really enjoy, and that's sort of the road I'd like to go down. Sorry about this light with the light coming in behind me. Our shutters are ordered, but they're not here yet, and I can't even close anything. Sorry.
It's, you know what's really good that you girls have honed in on where you want to head, because that's sometimes, you know, part of the journey, and it's a journey. It's never just that's your destination. It's all about learning and growing and working in different areas to find out what you like. And
absolutely,
just acquiring skills by utilizing a program like this is fantastic, because as you said, Sara, you know, you jobs that we might work on in the future, you know, although you might hone in and focus on the design or the layout of the floor plan, to have that extra knowledge of, you know, both the foundation education that we've had with ISCD and the diploma we've done, but also to then have a little bit of practical experience in styling and shopping, even in just, you know, what I really valued when I was there. You know, I got a full retail, like a list of suppliers, which was brilliant to have that. To be able to tap into that kind of experience can help in whatever job you end up having, I think. So the experience was broad and it was great.
Yeah, just having those different experiences, I mean, they're all valuable. So Now
Liz has put a question up here. Oh no, she just said that it's interesting, your points that you've raised. Yeah, definitely. No, it's good. And with the styling to keep too, I mean, that might be more your thing, where you've got more involvement in the actual process with the client. You know, another arm of their business. That
they have a couple of designers that work specifically on the style to keep side, and they're doing the. We worked with them one day, and I actually was also sent out on an install or a partial install for a style to keep, just because the lead times for things are so long at the moment that they did partial with what they had, and then they were going to do the rest later to get some of the things in. So that's a really interesting side of the business too, and that's also growing for them. So
fantastic. Have we got any more questions, guys, or have we been well informed by the look of it? If there's not too many questions, that's the good sign that you've answered everything. No, that's great. Well, thanks so much for coming, guys. I know you're busy, and appreciate that you've taken some time out to chat to the school. And you know, moving forward, you guys sound really busy anyway, working on projects. So you're both in industry right now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yep. Little bits and pieces and growing, which is good.
Yes.
Good on you both. Well, please stay in touch, because we love to, you know, hear how everybody's going, our alumni. And it's been wonderful for you guys to come and share your experience. So
thanks, Gabby, very much. Thanks for having us, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. That was great.
No worries at all. Okay.
Beautiful.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.